Hi, everybody, and welcome to Barbara Phifer's birthday party online. Thank you all for coming and watching. If you are watching right now on Facebook or Twitter or Twitch or wherever you're watching from, go ahead and share it so that we can get more folks jumping in and watching and asking questions, putting comments in. We're going to be having a conversation today about a whole lot of things in Missouri, about ethics in government, about Amendment 3, and really answering whatever questions you all have today. Very excited to have not only Barbara Phifer here, who is a candidate for Missouri House in District 90, we also have the current Missouri State House representative for District 90 and candidate for State Senate in District 15, Deb Lavender. So we'll have both of those on. While you're watching, you can go ahead and submit your questions. So you'll be able to do that in the comments. We'll be able to see all of those live. There will also be a phone number on the screen. And if you're on the website watching, you'll see a phone number there as well. You can go ahead and text questions to that number as well, and we'll be able to get those too. Whatever you do, don't call that number because I'm not going to pick it up in the middle of the show, but I will read your text and we'll get those questions answered too. So go ahead, comment, let us know where you're watching from, get your questions ready, and I'm going to bring on our guest today. This is very exciting. Make sure I've got everybody here. And is everybody there?
Yes.
Hi. Wonderful. Hi, everybody. Well, Barbara, Deb, very excited to have both of you on. Barbara, it's your birthday today. Happy birthday.
Well, thank you. It's a good day.
It's a good
Happy
day.
Birthday.
Yes. So you decided to have on your birthday, I mean, it is your birthday. You can do whatever you want is what I hear. So you decided to have a wonderful, deep conversation about ethics in government today.
You know what? I was a philosophy major in college. It doesn't get better than this.
That's great. Okay, good. I took a philosophy class one time and couldn't handle it, so I did not do that. But political science, close enough. We're excited to do this today. Very excited to have all of this put together. I think it's an interesting world out there where so many events now are being done online, and we're very excited to have you too, Deb, and certainly both of you busy running around and trying to get as many votes as possible. So it's good that we had time to get everybody in the room here together tonight. So that's great. Deb, would you like to do? I guess you're the current representative for the district. Would you like to do the honors of kicking it off a little bit, describing what it is that really a representative does, why it's so important, a bit about what you're doing now too, and what you're running for and everything else, and why it's important for us to really look at having good ethical people in government right now like Barbara.
I'd be happy to kick us off. I'm not sure I'm going to remember all of the questions you just put into that last 27 seconds, but we'll see. I'm currently the state rep from the Kirkwood-Glendale area. I've served this district for 6 years, and I've loved every minute of it. I have what I call an insatiable curiosity, and I have found being in the State House is one of the best places that I can be to learn and ask questions and understand what's happening across Missouri. I'm currently running for state senate against Andrew Koenig, a gentleman that's just too extreme for our district and for our state. Remind the people who are watching with you tonight that he banned abortion in the state of Missouri without any exceptions for rape or incest. And for women and for people who live with women, it's an incredibly archaic law that we enabled. Fortunately, it's held back on the courts right now, and we're all going to wait for Roe v. Wade and see what happens in the Supreme Court, which is on our minds on a daily basis. So that's what I'm here for tonight, is to introduce Barbara. And yes, there are ethical considerations as you get people to represent you, how they represent you, whether or not they work for the bidding of the highest lobbyists, or the people who will give them the most perks. Unfortunately, even though we passed Clean Missouri that limits gifts, meals, there's still a way to get under the table with those type of things. I'm disappointed to tell you that where it has curtailed a lot of it, it hasn't curtailed all of it. Mm-hmm. So the work that we do is important. It's important to be detailed oriented. Just a single word in a bill can just completely alter the meaning of the entire bill. So it's important that we are over there on good faith and work hard for the people in our districts. They deserve it. That's what we run for. That's why we serve in office. So I'm excited right now to be running for state senate. We're out in the district. We're doing what you want me to do, meeting people, talking to people, calling people. So we're quite excited about that. I am so happy. So win or lose, I will no longer represent this district, and I'm happy to hand off the baton to Barbara. I've known her now for just about the year's time that she's been running. Thrilled that she was the person to step up to run for this seat that I will be leaving. I leave behind a good community, a good district. Very pleased and proud of this district. Voted 70% for Medicaid expansion when we had that on the ballot in August. I think it was one of the highest districts that voted for that. Barbara, I'll take a little bit of credit. I think I've been teaching this community about Medicaid expansion for 6 years and how it helps our friends and our family and our neighbors, how it increases economic activity, produces jobs. So very proud to represent this district as we pass Medicaid expansion by 70%. I hope to go over to the Senate that we implement it. We do have money set aside for that, and so excited by the opportunity that I may have in January to make sure that we get it implemented as well. So Elad, thank you so much for having us on here. I appreciate the opportunity. And with that, I am happy to introduce Barbara Phifer. She's running hard to represent this district. I think the winds are behind her, and I think she's going to have a great opportunity to win this seat. And we just decided 18 days. So 18 days, if there are things that you're still thinking about doing to help a candidate, put up a yard sign, make some phone calls, call your mother, your brother, your sister who lives in these districts, ask them to make sure that they get out and vote for us. Vote for Biden at the top of the ticket. And of course, Nicole will be an amazing governor for all of us. And so with that, Barbara, I'd like to hand the baton to you.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. And yes, you are going to be our next state senator. I am absolutely certain of that. And I'm so grateful that you're running. Thank you.
Yeah, that's really exciting. That's great. And Deb, I've known you for quite a bit now, and all of the work that you have done as a state representative for your district, which I don't live in, I'm in the city, but I still appreciate the representation because you do such a good job really advocating for people. And I mean, it means the world to see somebody fight like that. And I'm very excited to see you running for Senate, and obviously a very big supporter. So go get them. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Elad, if you're all right, I still have some work to do tonight, and where I would appreciate the opportunity. I know we're going to talk about no on 3.
Yeah.
Please, the Democrats did all that we could to prevent that and spoke against it for 2 years. And of course, the numbers where they are, it's on our ballot. Hopefully we'll, as a state, turn this down in the same percentage that we voted for Clean Missouri 2 years ago. And with that, we'll start making a difference in the state. But with that, I'm going to leave you all. Barbara, have a wonderful rest of your birthday. I don't see any cake in the background. Was
not yet. Not yet. I tried to get the house clean. No cake yet.
Well, it looks very good. You've got a great room behind you. So, Lad, thank you for this. Barbara, best wishes. I'll see you soon.
Thanks for coming, Deb.
Thank you. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Well, now it's just us two.
Well, yeah. Hey, I want to give just a little bit more of a plug for Deb. On Saturday, she's going to be doing a day of action throughout her whole district, all of District 15. Mm-hmm. The idea is 200 volunteers to hold up signs. And there's going to be a videographer going down some of the main streets in the district. And then in the areas where the different state representatives are running, people can hold up a sign for the state rep also. So this is a plug for me too. But from 9:30 on Saturday, if anybody wants to come and volunteer, it would be a twofer. They can help both Deb and me.
That's great.
So
that's good. I mean, look, you're doubling your efforts there. So that's
right.
That's great. No, I think it's and having worked with a lot of folks around the state, seeing that kind of cooperation is, I mean, it means a lot, right? Because one, we're getting the word out a lot better. We're a lot more efficient with what we're doing. But at the end of the day, government that really works for us is one that really finds a way to cooperate in a lot of different ways, and doing that, on a campaign, which is just this very long version of a job interview, I suppose. It's great to see.
Yes,
Yeah, it's really
right.
good to see. Yeah. Well,
Also, I was
ahead.
going to say, I think what she's doing is a real testimony to that kind of tenacity that Deb has.
Yeah.
Because in a situation where we're not doing the canvassing that we all thought we would do, she's figured out a way to do it differently.
Right.
And so these days of action, they're going on all the time. And people are going throughout the district, 15, holding up signs, and it's making a huge difference in the name recognition in the district. So, I mean, kudos to Deb for that.
Yeah, and I mean, all the indications are she's doing very well, and certainly needs our help to the very finish. There's only a few more days left, but goodness, that would be big, and it would be a very big change, especially given some of the decisions that have been made from that district so far. I think we could use new leadership in a lot of different ways, but that's certainly one of them. So, Barbara, it is your birthday, and there's a very special, cute video that has been submitted on your behalf. Do I have permission to play that thing?
Go for it.
I'm very excited.
It was unscripted by us. It was just the kids.
This was really, when it came into my email box, this was really cute. I think I've watched it 3 times already, but all right, here we go. Let's try this thing out.
Happy birthday, Anna, the greatest grandma in the world. Be sure to vote for my Anna, Barbara Phifer, for Missouri State Representative, District 90.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Nana. Happy birthday to you and anymore.
Birthday, Nana.
Happy birthday, Nana.
Now sing happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you. You belong in the zoo with the lions and the tigers and the monkeys like you.
Oh, this is really good. The zoo one, I haven't heard that one for years. That was wonderful.
So he's 5.
These are your grandkids?
Yes, and there's one more too. And in fact, I thought she was on there too, but she's not. So we've got 7 grandkids.
Wow.
Their age range is 14 to 2.
Yeah.
So we've got 5 that are here in the St. Louis area.
Okay.
3 live 3 doors down from us.
Oh, okay.
And so, which is really fun because they go to the same elementary school that our children went to.
Yeah.
And the oldest in that group is now at Phifer Middle School, where our kids went. So one of the fun things in Kirkwood is that people move back. The kids move away, and then a lot of times they move back once they've had that first child. So we see grandparents that we knew 30 years ago when their kids were in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade. And it's been fun for us. We've reconnected with quite a few people because we're all doing this one more time. And then the monkey in the zoo grandchild is a kindergartner in Webster Groves at Avery Elementary School.
Oh, that's good.
The kids who were giving the plug for me as a candidate live in Eugene, Oregon. But at the beginning of September, I don't know if you remember the wildfires.
Yes.
In Oregon in September. And so for a few days, Eugene, Oregon and Portland, Oregon both had the worst air quality in the world. And we've got kids in Portland and in Eugene.
Yeah.
So Sebastian and Sam came to stay with us for a couple of weeks while the settled down a little bit.
Yeah. Are
And
they
then
doing
one of
okay
my
now?
Yeah, they're fine. And their mom is actually a volunteer firefighter and
Oh, wow.
EMT. So she was up working one of the fires.
Yeah. Wow. That's a lot. That's I mean, that's quite a big job to do. Yeah. I mean, that's really great because you've got family. The family that's not in the state is the one that's plugging you running. This is really good. Seems like a big family affair, which is a great thing.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
in fact, that's actually how I got into this gig or prospective gig. Last year at this time, I was 2 weeks away from retirement.
Uh-huh.
And probably in September, Benjamin, who's the dad of the two little girls that sang at the end, started saying, "Mom, you need to think about running for office." And I thought, that's a weird thing to say, my love. But he started talking about it and talking about it. And then he got some of the other kids involved. They formed their own chat group to talk about Mom's political candidacy. And so, it's interesting what family will do for you sometimes.
Right.
And I thought, well, I'm not going to think about this until I retire. And I did on November 1st. Yeah. And so then I took some time to think about it, really kind of do some internal checks. For me, my spiritual life is important as well as my, academic and emotional life, and just to kind of check in what I felt like might be the next step in life. And I just decided that I could not come to the end of 2020, thinking a year out, and the presidential election. I could not come to that time and think to myself, I could have done more.
Right.
And so I started making some inquiries about what I should do. I thought, I can be a really good volunteer. Maybe there's something I should run for. I was open to anything. And I talked to Trish Gunby, who I know. And so she said, probably let me talk to some people. Would you be willing to run for office? And I thought, well, sure, why not? If I say I'm willing to do anything, I'll do anything. And so then a couple of days later, Deb called me and asked me to run.
That's great.
That's how I got into this.
Wow, that's really great. That's exciting. So the kiddos got you.
Yeah, right. So then I told all of them they had to volunteer and help because if they're going to drag me into this, then they have to help out, right?
Right. Yeah. That seems fair to me for sure. Yeah. No, that's really great. And I think your background. I guess just given your background, the time that you're at now. You've obviously you did a lot of. The cat wants to say hi too. This is a birthday for everybody, right? Do you have any pets at home, by the way?
Just grandkids.
Just grandkids. That's fair. Yeah, actually. So I understand that. Yeah, I've got far too many here. This one is I call her Kitten. It's just easier for me. But yeah. These are the ones that convinced me to run. It was the pets. Yeah, they didn't have a chat group though, but I think they were meeting in the backyard a lot.
I think they were. Yeah, and they were.
Yeah,
they were pushing you. Run.
Yes, they were certainly pushing me out of here. Yeah.
Right.
What given your experiences, your background, everything else, when you think about the position of state representative, right? You look at like the things that Deb Lavender has done, that other folks have done. Trish is a great example. What kind of things do you want to see done in Missouri? I think we agree that we want to see some changes and maybe some things voted no on that we'll talk about very soon too on the ballot. But what are some things that you really want to see done as a representative?
There's it seems to me without ever having been an elected official yet.
Mhm.
There's a two-step dance that you do in that you represent a specific geographic area.
Yeah.
But you're also have a responsibility to all the people who live in the state of Missouri.
Right. Right.
And so there's going to be a constant tension between figuring out, well, what's good for Kirkwood and what is good for Missouri. There's also that reality that it's more than just altruism, because if Kirkwood Glendale is doing well, but the rest of Missouri is failing miserably,
Mhm.
there's a limited period in which Kirkwood, Webster, and Glendale will be doing well.
Right.
That's just the reality of it. So certainly public education has to be at the very top of the list. I am very concerned about the ways in which we keep cutting the amount of money we are giving to funding for public education.
Mhm.
And if we don't have a well-educated citizenry, we don't have a state. I mean, it's just that easy.
Right.
Not everybody's going to private school. Private school is not the answer. Charter schools are not the answer. We need good, solid public education. And we need a minimum salary for teachers who have college education that really is a not just a living wage, but an attractive salary. We want people who stay in the profession for a long time.
Yeah.
I have read that places like Finland, which have wonderful public education, their teachers get the equivalent of $100,000 a year because they are valued.
Right.
Now, I don't want anybody saying, "Oh, Barbara Phifer says we have to pay our teachers $100,000 a year," but the point is that it's a profession, and these are people who not only deserve a well-paying job, it's in our best interest to pay them well. Our oldest daughter, who lives in Colorado, is a teacher, and she's a Spanish teacher. Right now she's teaching farming. She and her husband have a small farm. And she's been an administrator. She says she will never do that again because it's a horrific experience in a lot of ways. But she's been doing that for 20 years, and it's hard work.
Yeah.
My mother was a school teacher, and I saw the hard work that she did over the years.
Mm.
And we are living through a time period when teachers are under a lot of pressure.
Right.
And we need to value them and appreciate them. One of the good things, I guess you could say, in an odd way, that's coming out of this COVID experience is that as we have between 3 and 4 children at the house every day, they're online, and I'm getting to observe them in their classes. And I am so impressed with the teachers. I have 2 conclusions. One, yes, it's a good thing I was never a teacher. I don't think I could do the job.
It's tough. It's tough. It is really tough.
Gosh, it is so hard. And the teachers are wonderful. They are, and the kids, their teachers are important to them. They love their teachers, and they add so much value to their lives in ways that go beyond just what they're learning academically. So public education has to be front and center, and that's also true at the university level.
Mm-hmm.
It should be true at the vocational school level. Public education isn't just K through 12; it goes all the way up the board. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
My father was a professor at the University of Missouri for many years, and also in the extension division, he had a dual appointment.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, higher education is a huge value for me.
Yeah.
The only value. The second thing that I see is what Deb alluded to, the expansion of Medicaid. And this is a really deep philosophical question. What do we owe each other? And 100 years ago, sometimes you were better off if you went to the doctor, but sometimes you were worse off if you went to a doctor. It was kind of the luck of the draw. Things have changed in 100 years. And I think I've read that in 1900, the average lifespan in the United States was less than 50 years of age, somewhere around 49, as a matter of fact. And the average lifespan is much longer than that now, right. Almost 80. And that's because of medical advancement. And I believe deeply that in a developed nation as we are, healthcare is a right. Mm-hmm. Everybody has a right to basic healthcare. There's some things that we need because we're human beings together.
Yeah.
And healthcare is one of them.
Yeah.
So how we implement Medicaid is going to be very, very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think people are often shocked when they discover just how little you can make in the state of Missouri right now and be eligible for Medicaid.
Mm-hmm.
It's shameful.
Yeah.
I don't believe in shaming people, but it's shame on all of us for doing it.
Yeah.
It's wrong.
Yeah.
So can you tell I like to get on my soapbox, but I feel very strong about it. Yeah. And
yeah.
And if you scratch my surface, you'll discover, and a lot of it comes down to a faith point of view. Mm-hmm. I believe that we are called into healing. And if you're a person of faith, and it doesn't matter what faith, we all believe in the power of healing. And to say you believe and then act in ways that don't promote healing is disingenuous at best.
Right.
So.
Right. So tell all of us, because there's a lot of people who are watching now, and they love your grandkids, by the way. Oh my goodness.
Well, clearly.
A lot of people with the happy birthday comments. You got one from Helena, who I think was actually trying to join the broadcast at one point. So I've actually got that link. So I almost let you in, Helena. I don't know if you were ready for it, but that's great. LaDonna's here too.
I think I sent her the wrong link.
Did you? That's okay. That would have been fun. You would have been live with all of us. So I really wanted to press the button.
Well, she's also a candidate. She would have been great.
She would have been great. Helena Webb is also running. Everybody look her up too. We're all in this together. Absolutely. So that's great. Yeah. No, you talked a lot about the importance of your faith in a lot of the beliefs that you're sharing now. Could you tell a little bit more about that in your background and why that's obviously an important source of strength on a lot of these issues? Because you're willing. Look at it. I see when you talk about these issues that it comes from a point of great conviction, and I'm happy that it does, because I agree with just about everything you're saying. But could you tell us a bit more about that?
Yes. Well, as I said, I retired last year. I was a pastor.
Yeah.
I was a pastor for 41 years in the United Methodist Church. So I have, since I was 22, have worked in a variety of ways on social issues through the church. Yeah. But this is meat and drink to me, and maybe it's because as pastors say, Sunday is coming, which means you got to have a sermon once a week every week of the year. I've talked about these things a lot over the years. And and then in my tradition, we have the Hebrew Scripture and what we call the New Testament, and you've got all kinds of wonderful stories that you preach on. So it has given me lots of fuel for thinking about, what it means to be a person in community, what it means to be a person of faith, what it means to say I believe something, how do I live that? And I've been encouraging people to do that for years. And so I guess I've got to preach to myself as well and try to live that out.
Yeah.
As I think about what I have done over the years, one of the things, I don't know if you know this about me a lot or not, but I lived in South America in the 1980s for 5 years.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
No, I did not.
No? Oh, okay. Yeah. In the 1970s, there were a series of military dictatorships that overthrew various governments. And Protestantism is not very large in South America, newsflash. However, the Methodist Church has a long history there. And in Uruguay, the Methodist Church had, through a series of unfortunate events, many of the pastors were either imprisoned or went into exile. And so I and my family and I went to Uruguay in 1983 during the military dictatorship, kind of towards the tail end of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there through that transition into democracy. And in fact, you may have some people from Montevideo listening right now. So, hi, folks.
Hey.
Yeah, one of my dear friends from Uruguay called this afternoon to wish me happy birthday.
That's really nice.
So, yeah, I sent her the link for tonight. Anyway, that was one of the most informative experiences of my life, and a huge reason why, as I thought about running, I decided to do so. The creeping authoritarianism that we are seeing is petrifying, absolutely petrifying. And having lived through and knowing what a military dictatorship is like, I, again, could not live with myself without doing everything I could.
Yeah.
So I pastored at a church when I was in Montevideo. Also worked with obras sociales. They call them social works, but that, okay. I worked in a community of people who gathered garbage and then sold what they could or made little shacks out of the garbage for their livelihoods, and and then also at another place a little bit outside of Montevideo, and we did preschool and homework with kids. Yeah. We did a feeding program, ran a medical clinic and a birth control clinic as well in my years there. And then coming back here to the United States, I was part of the founding of a bilingual medical clinic in the city of St. Louis called Acción Social Comunitaria. We ran for about 10 years. And La Casa de Salud, in some ways, is the successor organization to what we did. But we provided free and medical care to anybody who needed it for a long, long time. I've been involved with food programs for people who have food insecurity. And in the last year before I retired, worked with the Pattonville School District and the money from the landfill.
Yeah.
To develop a counseling service in the church where I served for families that were affected by the landfill.
Wow.
So, obviously the work of a state legislature is a little bit different, but the different sources of funding but the needs are the same.
Right.
Right. Education, health, what leads to community. So that might be a longer explanation than you wanted, but there it is.
That's great. While you were talking, though, you did have you've got a voter from Montevideo. I don't know if they're gonna be able to vote for you. Yeah,
right.
I hope I'm saying this right. Augustin Avellino.
Oh, Augustine. Okay.
There you go.
Hola.
Yeah. You've got. Wow, this is the first international comment I've had during a live stream. That's pretty great. I have had some viewers, but that's really exciting. Melissa's been watching. Melissa is watching from closer, but still can't vote for you, unfortunately, because she's in the Springfield area. And Melissa, thank you for letting me stay over at your home quite some time ago, because I really needed to sleep that night. But she said, it sounds like you have many advocacy skills that will serve you well in public service. And obviously a lot of what you have been doing certainly qualifies as public service. And that advocacy point is I think very well taken, considering that today is your birthday and we are doing this right now on your birthday. And one of the first things that you wanted to talk about was Amendment 3. And, I didn't want to give that any, a short shrift because, we're talking about you as a candidate, we're talking about Deb as a candidate. And while we also vote for candidates that we really want to represent us, and obviously I'm a big fan, but there's going to be some issues on the ballot too. And Amendment 3 is one of them. We had Clean Missouri before. This is basically the reversal of Clean Missouri. Some people call it Dirty Missouri. Call it whatever you want. It's called Amendment 3. But one of the things that you mentioned before, because we talked a lot about healthcare and Medicaid expansion, and this is a reason why it's important to also vote for people, not just for the issues, okay, is we expanded Medicaid in Missouri. The next thing that's going to happen is there are probably going to be efforts within the legislature to limit who is able to access that Medicaid that has now been expanded. And we've seen that in many states through, different kinds of forms of basically preventing people who are most in need of that healthcare from being able to access it. So, certainly I just wanted to point out that you were talking about how much of a supporter of that you were, and Deb was mentioning the same thing. We didn't just win. Like, we need to be vigilant about preserving those rights and making sure that people are getting access to the health care that they need. And if we don't have good people in the legislature doing that, or people who are dedicated to doing that, we're certainly going to run into problems very quickly. So one example of using the ballot, but
yeah, I think the day after the primary in August, one of the state legislators said, well, just because it's been passed does not mean we have to fund it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah. That's, it's an interesting take, and it's been happening a lot. It's happened, in Missouri history before. It seems like it's been happening a lot more now, where we, the people, spend the time getting signatures. A lot of them were collected for Medicaid expansion. I helped collect them, a whole lot of them. And Kevin Fitzgerald, shout out to you if you're watching. But goodness gracious, that guy collected just about all of them on his own. But no, it took a lot of groups, a lot of organizations, a lot of people to go do that. And we put it on the ballot, we voted for it, and it passed. And now that's the law of the land. And unfortunately, we have people who are in government thinking, well, too bad you didn't know. And now that's exactly what we're seeing with Amendment 3, because we did pass Clean Missouri, which was a package of ethics reforms, including some changes to the redistricting process in Missouri as well, to try to make it fairer, to make it more competitive, to make sure that the partisan politics was more balanced in Missouri, like it actually is in real life. not this gerrymandering thing. But now, you had a group of legislators that, despite all the signatures that everybody got, despite all of the effort, despite the 62% of voters who supported it and made it law, part of the Missouri Constitution, the legislators themselves decided, well, we know better, so we don't have to collect signatures since we're legislators and we're special. We're just going to put it on the ballot so that you have to vote on this again, and hid some things in there too. So, I mean, it has become a pattern now that really the first line of defense against legislators flipping what we vote on is to have legislators who believe that we know what we're doing and that we should have a voice in our government.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I think that there is a trend in the United States right now to eliminate the idea of referenda, because lots of the state legislators do not want the will of the people to be enacted in that kind of direct way. And in fact, I mean, what we're seeing throughout the Republican Party, in particular at this point, is a move away from democracy. I think Mike Lee's statement this week that the purpose of the Constitution is not democracy, it's something to take very seriously. Mm-hmm. He is not saying that out of nothing. He's not making that up out of whole cloth. Yeah. It's something that's in the water of the Republican Party. And the name I have for that is authoritarianism. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that is the seriousness of Amendment 3. The way, and you're an attorney, I'm not. So this is where I think we can have a great conversation. So this is a layperson's take, okay? The silliness about lobbyists, the silliness about money from donors. Mm-hmm. That's politics as usual. It's silly. It's absurd. We've seen that kind of thing before. Even wanting to go back to gerrymandering, we've seen before. But this is dirty plus. It's just not dirty Missouri. It's not going back to what we had. It's disenfranchisement. And I really feel like it is the camel nose under the tent. You know that? When the camel's nose gets under the tent, pretty soon the camel's in the middle of the tent. You know, that's what we say about our grandkids all the time, by the way.
The same is true with cats, by the way, as we've seen tonight. Yes, that's absolutely correct.
It's true with grandchildren also. So anyway, not to cast aspersions on camels. But to say that children will not be counted in districting, or people who are not citizens disenfranchises representation. Mm-hmm. And I had a kind of a technical question about this for you. Yeah. So assuming that once every 10 years we do redistricting, do they count 17-year-olds who are going to be voting in the next election? Do you have to have completed 18? Do we have a moving? So if I'm 11 when in 2021, I would be a voter by the time the next redistricting comes, but I wouldn't be counted.
Correct.
In terms of, so, I mean, does this even pass the constitutional smell test?
No, if you're asking me for my opinion as sometimes constitutional attorney, no, I don't think it does at all. I mean, I think this is terrible. We would be the first state in America to not count children as part of the redistricting process to determine where our representatives are representing. And yes. It does not seem like it would pass a lot of protections in the Constitution, although I guess it will depend on the interpretation of people at the Supreme Court by the time it gets to that challenge. So who knows? Who knows? I mean, we're at a time. Who knows? No, I mean, right now, we would be the first ones to do that. And it actually was a proposal. I've been learning a whole lot about the origins of this because before in America, so what Amendment 3 does, the plus, which I think is a great way to describe it, because it's not just reversing clean Missouri.
No,
it is
dirty plus.
Yes, it is dirty plus. I like the plus because the plus is this simple sentence that says that it seems simple, but it doesn't make any sense when you say it. That the apportionment will be done by the principle of one person, one vote. And so what does that mean? Does that mean that only people who can vote are counted? That's what they're saying. That's the interpretation they're putting forward. Now, the interesting thing is, this thing had to go through, so it didn't go through the signature process like I described before. It was literally proposed by the legislature and then pushed out to the rest of us. And in the committee, so, this thing has to go through a committee of less, people. If you're watching right now, the Supreme Court nominee, and that's a confirmation hearing in a committee. It's not the full Senate, it's part of it. So the same thing happened with Amendment 3 before it was Amendment 3. And before it got out of the committee, the person who was in charge of the committee, Republican, said that this is a terrible idea. The party is pushing this thing. It was drafted with errors in it, I've now been told. But if this is what you all want to do, fine, I'm approving it. And so it was voted on, and it got out of committee. I'm not sure. I don't know which error. He wasn't very specific in which errors he was discussing, but it sure seems like leaving a very vague thing there that says based on the principle of one person, one vote, which would allow you to exclude children, even if they would become the age of the ability to vote within that census period. Non-citizens, as you described as well. Also people who are on probation parole, or people who are in prison as well. Even if their sentences are going to end up, it could be the next day, and they would be able to vote. They would have the right to vote again. They potentially might not be counted too. And unfortunately, we haven't seen too many studies yet showing what the impact of the felon disenfranchisement would be on that count. We have seen what would happen with children not being counted, what would happen with non-citizens being counted, but we haven't seen the full research done there, and obviously we're about to vote on the darn thing. But yeah, I agree. That plus, one, does not seem to be constitutional for a whole lot of reasons. Two, goes against the traditions of America, because the idea was always we have a representative for this number of people. And it didn't matter if they were citizens. It didn't matter if they were children, they were adults. It was just that number of people so that we would all have access. Even if we chose not to vote, even if we chose never to participate, if one day we woke up and we said, hey, I really want to talk to somebody who represents me in government, we were supposed to have the same access as just about anybody else. And that was the concept behind it throughout our history. And we would be the first state to not do that anymore. And it's been part of a playbook that was designed to entrench power and to keep people in power. Literally was designed by folks who make a living doing that, unfortunately.
Do you ever read The Guardian?
Every once in a while, yeah. I mean, whatever comes across. I read a lot of things, unfortunately, on the internet. Good and bad.
Great article in The Guardian right now about disenfranchisement. And talking about, in fact, for some reason, as a lay person, I never really got to Cass versus Baker, decided in 1962, which really, by the Supreme Court, which really established the idea of one person, one vote, and moving away from the idea that a representative represented acreage versus people. And evidently, Justice Warren said he believed it was the most important case that they decided when he was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Yeah. And it seems to me that this is a move backwards towards a world that's pre-Cass versus Baker. Because, the next step is, okay, one person, if representative is one person, one vote, children don't vote. So does the public have an obligation to provide school for children? They're not voters. Does the government have an obligation to provide health care for children? They're not voters. A representative represents the people, not just the citizens. The government, it's the people. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union. It's not just the voters. And I mean, this is fundamental. I mean, I can't, to me, it's like, we need to be, blaring the sirens. This is unprecedented. And I would very much like to know who had the idea. I doubt it was born in the state of Missouri.
No, it was not born in a apparently a little back room by an operative who specializes in gerrymandering districts, and it was on a memo many years ago that he wrote, and the suggestion was for states that once the party were in power, and he was specifically speaking about Republican Party, but I mean, honestly, you see a lot of problems whenever you have like a super majority of one party in power, but this one was specific to Republican operative who said that once you take power and you have enough of it, you want to make your redistricting process reflect just voters being represented, just people who are voting, and that would include the exclusions that we're now seeing pushed in Missouri.
But I don't think that person, whoever that operative was, came up with it by himself.
I sincerely, I mean, maybe that guy was a little scary, but yeah, it's possible. Yeah, I don't know.
There were discussions about that.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
They're huge implications. I was on a Zoom meeting with the Farm Bureau for candidates a couple of weeks ago, and a lot of it was fascinating. I mean, I learned a lot. Mm-hmm. But they ended up talking about Amendment 3.
Yeah.
And the verbiage that was used was that no, I'm gonna back off. Actually, the guy didn't say this. Okay. The verbiage that they put out in paper or online is that Amendment 3 will preserve the rural way of life. Okay. Mm-hmm. The message I got, at least from the governmental affairs guy for Missouri Farm Bureau, was, in essence, he said, I'm paraphrasing, he said, well, it used to be Democratic, most of the state, but now the rural areas are Republican, and we want to keep it that way. Just but you think about it a little bit deeper. To preserve a way of life, what does that mean? It sounds great, but what I don't even know what it means, except in terms of, if you think about, let's say, gerrymandering. Mm-hmm. So rural areas have greater influence. The economic engine of the state of Missouri is the St. Louis metropolitan area and the Kansas City metropolitan area. So by inference, what they're saying is they want to have more power to use the economic benefits that are being derived from the people in the metropolitan areas, rather than the people who live in the metropolitan areas having the same access to that wealth. It's an economic argument.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So I was on a podcast actually not too long ago, the Heartland Pod, and they invited me to come, and we spoke separately. But they also somebody from the Farm Bureau came too and spoke about it. And the thing is, it's interesting because if you look at the map and how it will be impacted, that might be overall true. I'm not so certain about that in terms of if this is how we change it or whatever. But if you look at areas that are going to gain representative power, if someone is telling you that your area in rural Missouri is going to gain representative power, they might be lying to you. There is one who's representing Platte County right now who apparently is all for it. Platte County it's just outside Kansas City. It includes parts of Kansas City too, so it's not entirely rural.
It's a metropolitan area.
Yeah, but I mean, Platte County, like the rural parts of Platte County, are going to lose representation. A lot of Southwest Missouri is going to have the biggest losses in representation. St. Louis City is actually going to gain because, unfortunately, we've seen such a loss of children. Honestly, in St. Louis City. And that's one of the hot spots of where there will be gains. Now, there's going to be significant losses in especially St. Louis County. North County is going to be one. And if you look at the impact that this is going to have, it is going to have a very significant impact on representation in majority minority districts or even partial minority districts. But minority representation is going to be impacted the most in Missouri when you look at it from a demographic perspective. I don't know what exactly, we talk about the rural way of life. I know a lot of family farmers around the state that are getting entirely screwed over by the state government and whatever powers that might be that right now are pushing this corporate philosophy. But these monopolists are extracting as much as they can from the state. They're eliminating as much competition in our state, and they are literally killing the rural way of life in so many of our towns that are just dying because of bad policy in our state government. So, goodness,
a refusal to expand Medicaid. That impacts rural areas.
Yeah,
more than anywhere else. Yeah.
You lose a hospital. You can't live there. There are so many people, and you look at like the ages of so many towns. Marceline, Missouri. You talk about the Boot Heel. It's an older population that's returned. A lot of kids have left, and now if you're saying, there's not going to be any health care available. If you're an older American, you're more likely to need access to health care. Now, we closed all of your hospitals. Too bad. And the communities literally cannot survive. That concept of the survival of the rural way of life when literally these are the folks who are destroying it right now is incredible.
My husband's from Hayti.
Oh, sure.
Which is in Boot Hill. Yeah, and his family has a couple of farms there, so we are still there often. But his family is just like what you said. The parents stayed. All the kids left, and Tom's mom has now died. But and so it's interesting. We still have these little family farms surrounded now by people who are, have thousands and thousands and thousands of acres as investments or corporations. Right. It's the family farm is rapidly disappearing. Yeah. So I'm not even sure what to preserve our way of life means, except that to take economic benefits from other folks. One question I did have for you, and it looks like you've looked at the demographics. So, for example, in the areas where we have these meat packing plants, which have been an economic boon to some of these rural areas, what happens to these places? Because if you've got these school systems like Noel and Monette, and you think of the northern tier too. They've had an increase in population because of these meatpacking plants. But if the parents who may not be citizens, and then the children who may be citizens but are not the age to vote yet, aren't counted, it seems to me that would be a huge detriment to these governments in these counties.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right. If you look at it from a demographic perspective, you see a decrease across the board, right? Because we're not counting kids of any demographic. So now you're comparing how much of your loss is when you look at white Missourians. And this does not count, like I said, the felony disenfranchisement, all of those other issues. But just looking at citizens, non-citizens, and children, and the biggest proportion of that is children. It's a 21% drop in representation of white Missourians. It's a 28% drop at least of black Missourians, and it is a 54% decrease in representation of both Hispanic and Asian Missourians. And so obviously that's where the biggest impact is going to be. And I think you're right. In a lot of communities that have seen an influx of workers from all over really, but coming because of agricultural work or whatever it might be, could be some of the most impacted as a result of Amendment 3.
And I could be quite wrong about this because I've not looked at the demographics for a while. But at least, historically, let's say in the last 25 years or so of Latino influx into Missouri has been more in rural areas than in metropolitan areas. So that would be a demographic advantage, but for the rural areas. Now, unless there's been more influx in the in the St. Louis area than I'm aware of, it's still not super high.
Yeah, I mean, but you think about like Milan, Missouri, a whole bunch of towns, but yeah, I mean and it's literally like that. Bringing folks there has revitalized town squares. It's brought businesses in, and I think folks initially were a lot of rhetoric about having problems with that, but until they see the actual impact of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and you know what? I think in general, people like to see young people and children. And so some of these towns, it must have been just wonderful to begin to see families and young people. So, yeah.
Speaking about young people, Seb says hi.
Aw, hi, Seb.
You've got Skylee saying happy birthday. Skylee, is that how you say that?
Hi, Skylee. She's the one that didn't get on the video somehow.
Next year. Much love from Oregon. Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, you know what? I'm just looking at the time now. We are past 8. I don't want to keep people from, but we could. I mean, honestly, we should do this again. But I wanted to give you an opportunity. It is your birthday after all. What would closing thoughts about really, I mean, just anything, but it seems so much like the importance of civic engagement at a time like this and what it means for any one of us to really get more involved in America.
Okay. Well, I've been thinking quite a bit today because last year today, I was two weeks away from retirement and beginning to think, okay, what will retirement mean? What I thought a year ago and where we are today are two completely different things. I mean, nada que ver, nothing to do with each other. This has been a year of so much trauma and change, I think, for all of us as a country. And, now is absolutely not the time to stop. This is the time to step up, to get engaged. Our future truly depends on it. I've got 7 very strong reasons that I want our country to be a place where people live in peace, where people live in community, with people where people live in a way that they can make a just living, that they can have a fair wage. I want us to live in a community and a country where we love our neighbors, and we celebrate families, however they're shaped or formed, and we appreciate each other as each of us as people who are unique. We celebrate our differences and embrace our commonalities. And I think we can do it. We have all the tools we need. We just have to make the commitment, and it's here for the taking. So that's really, I truly believe that, and I know we can be better than we are right now. So that's my birthday wish.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This has been a lot of fun.
This is great. Well, this was
great.
wonderful.
This was wonderful.
Thanks for coming on. And seriously, happy birthday.
Seriously, happy birthday.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, folks. Well, thank you all for coming and watching. Hopefully you learned a bit. I think Barbara's great. And we'll have videos up and everything else. You'll be able to find it. We'll be, as always, at eladgross.live. All right, everybody. You take care, and we'll see you soon.